information gained from viewing the following program is not a substitute for regular exams by your physician and does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship. All information gained should be discussed and confirmed by your physician.
Welcome to Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. We're so glad you've joined us today. I'm Ed Krick, your host, and this is my wife Beverly, our co-host. And we're delighted that you've joined us because we know you understand that to be healthy is your greatest wealth. Once you've lost your health, there's no amount of money that can buy it back. So when we talk about healthy, wealthy, and wise, we want to help you learn how to be wise in applying these principles of good health so that you can stay healthy and thus be the wealthiest possible. Could I suggest that you get a pencil and maybe some note paper today in case there's anything important to you that you want to jot down for future reference? We're so happy to welcome today for our guest Dr. Hans Deal, Doctor of Health Science degree from London University School of Public Health. Dr. Deal is an expert in prevention. He's run the CHIP program, originator and producer of CHIP, which has helped so many people in so many places, and we'll hear more about that later on. Dr. Deal, one of the things that we wish we weren't known for around the world is the fact that the United States leads the world in being overweight. And it's not too surprising with all these ads and fads that you see. I mean, from dawn till dark, we see on television about food ads, and then we see the next thing is the diet ads and the newest diet that's out and so forth. What are the trends in this regard?
You know, the trends are getting larger and larger and larger. You know, that term supersize, it really has become a word for our culture today, isn't it? Let's take a look at this graphic here. Here you see in 1900, the average standard size of the chairs was about 16.5 inches, stayed there for about 70, 80 years, and all of a sudden it jumped from the 17 inches. I mean, this is the average body size that fit into a chair, right? And suddenly it jumped to 23, now it's 24 inches to make room for the enlarging American derriere.
And we even hear that the car makers are making the seats bigger.
Yeah. You know, there's some airlines that charge you extra if you have exceeded certain width. So, you know, it's becoming a very big, weighty matter.
It is.
It's a weighty matter.
Yeah.
We need to pay a little more attention to it, I think, don't we? How do we get so many calories? I mean, to get all this weight on, you've got to eat a fair amount. It's calories in, calories out. Where do we get them all?
Well, you know, you can actually eat fewer calories, or you can burn more off, right?
Exercise more.
Exercise more, yeah. So this is probably the equation. What I wanted to maybe talk about today is maybe we can eat more food that has fewer calories. Now, does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So we want to focus on caloric density, right? There are some foods that are coming in small volumes, but they have a lot of calories. And we sometimes talk about reducing, first of all, empty calories.
That sounds like you're going to talk about some of the things that we love to eat, maybe the empty calories.
Yeah, I guess it's a popular thing. We have been sold on that. Empty calories, they're devoid of nutritional value, by and large, right?
Yes.
And so when you think about empty calories, you usually think about sugar. Right? Sugar, you know, you talk about the sweet stuff, right? It's nice. It gives us enjoyment. But we have gone so far that we have become involved in changing our taste buds. We no longer know what real good food tastes like because it's so over-sugared, it's so over-sweetened. And maybe we can take a look at the second graphic here that I have for you.
Okay.
This shows the trends in the sugar consumption in the United States. And what really is shocking to me that, you know, 150 years ago, we would have about 2 teaspoons per person. Then in 1900, we would have more like 22 teaspoons of sugar per person. And now we're between 35 and 45 teaspoons of sugar a day.
And that's a day.
Over 40 a day
That's per person.
per person. Who's getting my share?
Oh, you don't take the 40 teaspoons, right?
She doesn't eat any. We don't even have sugar in the house, Hans.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody's eating mine.
Somebody's eating yours. Yeah, can you imagine? There's some people that eat 100 teaspoons of sugar.
How would you begin to get that many in a day?
Yeah, people are oftentimes surprised when you really think about it, right? You can begin to think about the number one source of sugar in the American diet is, of course, soda pop, right? Soft drinks.
Soda. It's
You know,
cheap,
Yeah.
easy.
I mean, take a look at the next graphic here. It shows you how many soda pop, how many bottles we drink, family of 4. Look at this. Family of 5, it's husband and wife, 2 kids in elementary school. They consume per week 56 cans of soda pop.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you know that you have about, how many teaspoons do you have in a soda pop? About 35 to 40
In 1 can?
grams.
Grams.
So it's about 8 to 10 teaspoons in a small bottle. And the average person in our society drinks 2 to 3 a day. And younger people obviously take more than older people. So you can have college students that consume 3, 4, 5 drinks like this. So if you multiply 3 times 10 teaspoons, you have 30 teaspoons of sugar just like that.
Well, that would be easy to get. So many places now have free refills.
That makes it even more attractive, doesn't
So
it?
12 becomes 20, 30, 40 ounces very quickly, and we think, wow, cheap.
And the
In the
drinks
long-
keep getting bigger, don't they?
Right.
I mean, you see these cups now, they're huge.
The buckets. So, you know, those empty calories, we may not realize that, but they're adding a lot of unnecessary calories. I looked at the amount of sugar that the average family of 4 consumes, and I came up with 9 pounds. I mean, that's just 2
That's a lot.
5-pound bags, just about, isn't it?
Yes.
And you just think about this. And they don't realize that sugar is almost everywhere.
And how long, over how long a period?
1 week.
1 week. 9.
1 week, 9 pounds of sugar.
That's a lot.
And we are not aware of it. Now, people don't realize that there's a lot of sugar in ketchup,
Right.
right? We don't realize the amount of sugar in a little candy bar.
And then people wonder why they're gaining weight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, when you have that candy bar, it doesn't really fill you up. So you have another candy bar, right?
That'd be easy to do.
And then you have all these highly refined little cupcakes and,
Yeah.
you know, you have all the different brands out there. It really adds up very, very fast. So that's the sugar. As a matter of fact, 21% of all the calories we consume in our society comes from sugar. No nutritional value, just calories.
But there's another more dense type of calorie source. How about the fats and oils?
Yeah, that's a very powerful one too. And here again, there's some fats as they come perhaps in meat or cheese. You know, there's some nutritional value there.
Right.
But then you have the extracted oils, you know, the fats, the grease that you extract, the oil that you pour out. You know, this is really, by and large, an empty calorie, no very little nutritional value there. But it's just calories. And for every gram, I mean, you have 9 calories. It's the most calorie-dense food that you can ever eat.
And 1 gram, let's think about that. Usually it's about 5 grams per teaspoon.
That's right.
So in one tiny little teaspoon, you've got 5 grams and 9 calories per gram in the fat.
That's about
so
45.
That's 45 calories per teaspoon. So a little butter, a little salad dressing, I guess, pretty much all fat.
Yeah, it adds up very, very fast, right? Because it's largely 90, 95, 100% fat when you have this.
And that's what you were mentioning about the calorie dense, the caloric density that we have to pay attention to.
Yeah, 1 small teaspoon, almost 50 calories, right? A little pat of butter, 100 calories.
Wow.
It just, we don't realize it.
Adds up.
And you find this and also again in crinkly bags. You know, when you have foods like potato chips, or when you have sort of, you know, those
Doritos, some kind of
those nicely shaped. I guess
little,
you're going Pringles.
little Fritos, little Pringles.
Yeah, most of these are fairly high in fat. As a matter of fact, they're usually 60% of the calories is fat, and yet many people think, well, those potato chips, that's a vegetable. I'm supposed to eat more vegetables, right?
Sure.
And you go through these very fast. So again, when you add the empty calorie fats, like you find in these prepared, refined, processed, what do you call these? Delicacies, snacks?
Snacks.
Somebody said to me, the larger the snacks, the larger the slacks. That's probably true. Because we underestimate the concentration of calories. I have a little roll in here for you. Would you like to take a look at that?
Yes, I'd love to see this.
It's called crinkly bags. It makes a very powerful point for all of us. Crinkly bags.
Crinkly bags.
Today's tip is to be careful, be wary about crinkly bags. Why? Let's take a look. Here we have some chili cheese corn chips. This is a small bag, 10 ounces. This can be eaten in no time. And yet, when you have finished this little bag here, you will have had 1,700 calories, which is half a pound of fat on your torso. That's right. When you finish this, you will have had 110 grams of fat. And we shouldn't have more than 30 to 40 grams for the whole day. Do you see? These are high-calorie packages. Don't eat it if it comes in crinkly bags. Here's another one, 10 ounces. This is called Crunchy Cheetos. What do we have here? This is now 10 ounces, 1,600 calories. And again, you have in this bag 100 grams of fat, and we would be much better off keeping it between 30 and 40 grams for the day. Plus, it is also fairly high in salt. So be aware of crinkly bags. They look like innocent, but they're caloric bombs. Here's one more. Cheddar cheese and sour cream artificially flavored potato chips. 10 ounces again. You hear the crinkly sound? Be aware. Again, you have 1,300 calories in this particular package. The fat content is somewhat less, but again, concentrated calories. Be careful about crinkly bags.
Well, Hans, that's pretty impressive. I know you're saying that these things aren't bad foods necessarily. If you just ate one little snack a week, you wouldn't be in any problem.
Now, how many of us can do that?
But well, when I get one of those, I want to keep on eating it.
Yes,
I mean, where do you stop? And pretty soon the bag's gone. I mean, even the small bags you can get at the snack machines.
That's right.
They're not devoid of problems. And of course, when we talk about empty calories, we have to remember that we're talking about something without vitamins or minerals that can really be measured to speak of. And there's almost never any fiber there. Right. So you end up with the increased problems with the GI tract, and you get more appendicitis and more diverticulitis and sacs on the bowel, and you can have more problems with gallbladder and so forth. So it's not just the fact that you're getting a concentrated high-calorie food, but you're losing the benefit of the fiber that otherwise would be there if you ate the food as grown, like you like to say.
Yeah. Sometimes people come to me and say, look, don't take away my last joy of life. They talk about these Pringles, right? And I said, I don't want to do this. And I said, but you have to be aware that this is a concentrated form of calories. You should eat them rarely.
Right.
And the lady said to me, well, I only eat one. And I said, you mean one tube? And I said, who can just eat one of these potato chips, you see? And that is a temptation. They taste good. The salt, kind of draws you in to eat more of these. There's a certain crunchiness to it. They're very delectable, But once you pop it, they say you cannot stop it. And so you have 1,100 calories in those original chips, see. And, it's very interesting. Those 1,000 plus calories I don't know. I talked to some of my medical students, and I said to them, how long would it take you to eat those? Oh, I said they argued for a while, and then they said 15 minutes. Okay, fine. So 1,000 calories, 15 minutes, right? Then I said to them, how many calories do you have in a potato? I said, we don't take nutrition in medical school. We don't know. I have to ask the dietitian then. I said, okay, if you would have 1,000 calories in the form of real potatoes, foods as grown, you would have to eat 9 to 10 potatoes. And then ask them, now you finish those 1,000 calories here in 15 minutes? How long would it take you to eat those 10 potatoes? And I said, 10 days.
That's right.
You see, when you have foods as grown, you have more volume. It takes you longer to eat it. But when you have the refined, engineered food that are made for taste and, I guess, for profit, right?
You bet.
For sale. Then you have a concentration there, and you can eat too many too fast. So I think it's an important lesson for us. If we could perhaps eat those crinkly bag foods, maybe occasionally, as a sort of a whatever it is, but zero in more on the food as it comes in nature to us. I mean, you can also go and talk about corn, right? We used to eat corn. Well, we probably do somehow. But now we have the corn chips. And then we have, what you put on top.
All kinds of good things. Sour cream,
Yeah.
avocado, all kinds of dips.
And so then you have an amassment of calories. And you say, well, I just eat like a bird. I don't know how I can go all this weight.
It's those dense calories that are the problem.
Yeah, it's those dense calories. And when you look at the next slide, I put it together for you here. Okay. Here you see what we just talked about, empty calories. Next slide, take a look at this. You have 3 sources now. You have the sugars, and they account for 21% of all the calories we eat. They go down very easily. We don't even realize it. And then you have these refined, visible fats and oils. That's another 20%, virtually no nutrition value. And then in our society, men consume about 9% of their calories in the form of alcohol. Again, very little nutrition value there. So in our society, we consume 50% of what we eat, calorie-wise, in the form of empty calories. No wonder that we're overfed and undernourished.
Yeah, I like that, putting that at the bottom of the slide there. It said overfed and undernourished. Yeah. And it's not a matter of not having enough calories to keep our energy levels up, but then we end up with that poor nutrition side of things, and people don't recognize that because that takes a long time to develop. It takes years to develop diverticulosis of the colon because of low fiber intake.
Right.
We don't connect them
Yeah.
because we really don't think about that.
Yeah, we don't connect the dots. That's so true.
It can happen over a long period of time.
And looking at people like in Africa where they eat a lot of fiber, because there are a lot of grains and they're eating food from the fields. They can't go to the corner store and get things, so they eat it from the fields. And they don't get appendicitis. And they, don't get gallbladder. And they don't get diverticulitis, and they don't get colon cancer.
And constipation.
Yeah, that's true.
So these refined foods are usually high in calories. We call them the calorically dense foods. So that's one big factor for our overweight problem in our society. But the second one has to do with the overall fat consumption in our Western society. And it's not just the crinkly bags that are high in sugar and in fat and perhaps, some of the alcohol. But we're also now talking about calories that are perhaps nutritious calories, but they're very high in fat as well. And there, of course, we have to look at fatty meats and fatty dairy products and sausages. So let's take a look at the next graphic here. Here you see the amount of fat that you find in meat. Take a look at the third from the bottom there, sirloin steaks, right? A sirloin steak is 75% fat. Of all the calories in the sirloin steak, 75% is fat. And people always think about meat as being a
good thing to eat. You need it for protein.
Yeah, we always think of it as a high protein food, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, we think that's where protein comes from. We don't realize that protein comes from beans and lentils and potatoes and sweet potatoes and so on and so forth, right?
Almost everything has some protein in it. That's a figment of the imagination from way back, that you had to have as much meat as the lumberjacks in Germany. 120 protein grams a day, wasn't that it?
That's right, yeah.
And less than half of that is really ideal.
Oh, it's still spooking around in our heads, right? right?
Yeah.
We have done a great job in our society to marketing meat as a source of protein. It really is one of the most prominent sources of fat in the American diet, especially when you look at the sausages. Let's take a look at that. Sausages don't really do much better. Look at this. You take a look at the very bottom there. It's, you know, they're all high, 73% all the way down to 85%. The last one is sort of the crowning glory here for America, and that's the American hot dog.
And sausage for breakfast. Most people have some kind of sausage for breakfast almost every morning.
Bacon and eggs.
Right.
You know, this is sort of the American thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And what does that add up to over a lifetime? I mean, you're eating a fair amount of animal, aren't you?
Yeah, I have it for you here on this slide. Take a look at this one here. This is what we consume typically in America. I mean, this is unbelievable. I could not believe when I found these statistics. We consume on the average, right, in a lifetime, 12 cows. I mean, think about this. I mean, you eat everything from the snout to the tail, just 12 cows. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And then you have on top of that, the average American consumes 25 hogs. I mean, I was so stunned. And on top of that, you have about 2,000 plus chickens. And all of this food is usually fairly high in fat. And of course, it's the #1 source of cholesterol in the American diet.
And that's a big problem that we just have not paid much attention to.
Yeah, and it's saturated fat, right?
The bad kind of fat.
Yeah, just like with the crinkly bags, some of these products are oftentimes containing a lot of trans fats. So you have the trans fats in the refined foods. No, you have the saturated fat in the animal products. And you know, the disease that we have today, they just didn't happen. Obesity just didn't sort of come out of the blue sky. We have honed, especially in the last 20 years, as we have become brainwashed to look for refined foods and animal products, don't you think?
Yes. And then we've got the dairy foods. Let's take a look at those. The next slide shows the dairy foods and the sources of fat.
Now here again, I mean, if we would have low-fat cottage cheese or non-fat milk, I mean, these would be very low in fat. You can see that it's virtually no fat at all. But then you go to the regular milk, that's almost 50% of the calories fat. And cheese is, you know, 65 to 75% fat, these regular rich cheeses. And so I think if a person wants to lose weight, we need to, I think, zero in on two things. #1, eat fewer refined calories, right? The empty calories. And #2, begin to eat less animal products such as meat and sausages. And we ought to be very selective in how we select our dairy products, right?
Yes. And then look at the next slide where we're talking about the combination. We're putting together the hamburger, etc. Comment about that.
Yeah, that's what we do, isn't it? I mean, that's what we have a quarter pounder, and then we have these special offers. Oh, just for an extra 25 cents, you get 9 ounces of French fries, a bucket full sometimes. And before we know it, we have consumed 15 teaspoons of grease that is clogging our arteries and is putting weight on our bodies. You know, it's so easy in our society to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I always feel we need to be very careful that we don't point our fingers at people that are struggling with overweight and say, well, look at you. You know, we have slithered into this thing. It's a cultural thing. It's a societal thing.
Yes.
Well, I look how it's changed in my lifetime growing up. There were no fast food restaurants. We didn't have the temptation. We didn't have it there. And in the last few years, it's changed dramatically. Fast foods are on every corner. It's available, and it's there for us.
And we all fall prey to it, don't we?
Yes, we sure do.
And of course, then you have something else that we need to take a look at. On the next slide, you see how easy it is to eat foods that are calorically very dense. You see that little fat-free cookie? You know, that's sort of a little fig Newton. That's a lovely little treat to have once in a while. It has 60 calories, nothing really to worry about too much. But I want to show you, to contrast this little fat-free cookie of 60 calories, which you can eat in, well, I guess we can just inhale those, right? I mean, it doesn't take much time. But look at this. You could have eaten, instead of that little fat-free cookie, you could have eaten a whole cantaloupe that would have been also 60 calories.
Yeah.
Now, that's the point I want to make here, right?
Yes.
Food as grown is usually high in, you said, roughage, fiber, water, good nutrition. It takes time to eat. It gives you a sense of fullness, right?
Vitamins and minerals.
Vitamins and minerals. But when you have these condensed, engineered foods, usually they're falling short on these things.
I like that foods as grown. Let's take a look at that next slide because that really highlights it a little bit more. It shows us the fruit.
Yeah, you know, I sometimes, well, you have 5 pounds of fresh fruit here plus 2 rolls that you can eat. This is 720 calories. But you could have also eaten 1 bagel with cream cheese on top. You know, those bagels are pretty large nowadays.
They're huge.
And that's also about 700 calories. And you know, people can eat a bagel in 10, 15 minutes, but I dare you, I really dare you, Ed, to finish those 5 pounds of fruits and 2 rolls in 15 minutes like you can eat the bagel.
Wouldn't happen.
See, so when you have God's design, we call this food as grown, when it comes out of the master designer's hand, it's very difficult to overeat calorie-wise because it takes more effort, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we want to stay away from those dense calories.
Yes. Dense calories, animal products, we have to cut back on if we want to lose weight. And we have to also be aware of the caloric density that we talked about. The larger the snacks, the larger the slacks, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Well, if we apply these principles, I think you'll find that the ability to lose weight is going to be much easier than you thought. We haven't talked a lot about diets. We don't recommend diet pills. And there's a new diet out almost every day, it seems like. They've got the new one out called the volumetric, and there's probably something to be said for that. And it's talking about the density of the calories, isn't it? Well, these principles that we've talked about today are so helpful. And I think if one could apply this not just to your own personal lives, but you grandparents, apply it to your grandkids. Don't reward them with snacks and food as some kind of achievement thing. If they're getting good grades in school, don't give them some big calorie-dense thing. That's going to be the wrong thing for them in the long run. So we want to remind you that our prayer for you today and every day is that you'll be healthy, wealthy, and wise, that you'll take the time to apply these principles for good health that we've been talking about. And remember also our text, Proverbs 17:22, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine." This will help you stay healthy, wealthy, and wise. You're watching LLBN TV. We hope you'll tune in again and join us next time. Get your friends to join us also, and we'll all together be on the way to being healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Yeah, this is